菜根谭
Tending the roots of wisdom.
73. 正义路广，欲情道狭。
73. The path of justice is broad, while the path of desire is narrow.
菜根谭原文：天理路上甚宽，稍游，心胸中便觉广大宏朗；人欲路上甚窄，才寂寂，眼前具荆棘迷途。
白话文注解：追求真理、正义的路十分宽敞，只要人们肯略为用心探讨，心胸就会豁然开朗；追求物欲满足的路非常狭窄，才踏上一脚，就发现眼前尽是荆棘和泥潭。
73-1. The path of pursuing truth and justice is incredibly broad. As long as individuals are willing to engage in thoughtful exploration, their minds will open up. On the other hand, the path of seeking material desires is exceedingly narrow. The moment one takes a step, they find themselves surrounded by thorns and quagmires. Translated by Bayandefu.
73-2. The way of heaven and earth is exceedingly broad. With just a whim to try it, your heart will feel expanded and brightened. The way of human greed is exceedingly narrow. Just setting foot there, you face muck and perilous thorns. Translated by Robert Aitken Daniel W. Wyckoff. 73-3. The path of heavenly principles is wide. Once you set your foot on this path, it takes only a bit of hard thinking for you to become fully enlightened. The path of human desire is narrow. Once you venture onto it, you will see nothing but brambles and mud. Translated by Paul White.
73-4. The path of pursuing truth and justice is exceptionally broad. As long as people are willing to delve into it with a little effort and thought, their minds will suddenly clear up. On the other hand, the path of pursuing material desires is extremely narrow. The moment one steps onto it, they will find nothing but thorns and quagmires in front of them. Translated by Wen Lin.
74. 磨练之腐久，参堪知之真。
74. The blessings of temperance endure, and true knowledge comes from diligent examination.
菜根谭原文：一苦一乐相磨练，练极而成福者，其福始久；一疑一信相参堪，堪极而成知者，其知始真。
白话文注解：人的一生有苦有乐，只有久经苦乐淬炼而得的幸福才能长久。在求学中，要抱着诚信与质疑的精神，有疑就去勘证，只有在反复考证中获得的学问才是真学问。
74-1. Throughout a person's life, there are both hardships and joys. But only the happiness that is forged through enduring trials and joys can stand the test of time. During the pursuit of knowledge, it's essential to uphold the spirits of honesty and inquiry. When in doubt, seek verification. Genuine knowledge is only attained through thorough and repeated verification. Translated by Bayandefu.
74-2. The course of alternating anguish and pleasure is the whetstone. It gives rise to pleasure, for the first time a pleasure that endures. The course of alternating doubt and faith is the ridgepole of understanding, for the first time an understanding of truth. Translated by Robert Aitken Daniel W. Wyckoff. 74-3. Repeatedly tempering oneself through the interchange of weal and woe enables one to attain long-term happiness. Repeatedly testing and checking in a process of doubt to belief and from belief to doubt enables one to attain true knowledge. Translated by Paul White.
74-4. In one's life, there is both suffering and joy, and only the happiness tempered by enduring hardships and joys can last. In the pursuit of knowledge, one should embrace the spirit of honesty and skepticism, verifying doubts through inquiry. Only knowledge gained through repeated verification is true knowledge. Translated by Wen Lin.
75. 虚心明义理，实心却物欲。
75. Maintain an open mind and understand principles clearly. Have a sincere heart, yet abstain from material desires.
菜根谭原文：心不可不虚，虚则义理来居；心不可不实，实则物欲不入。
白话文注解： 一个人一定要有虚怀若谷的胸襟，只有谦虚了，才容纳得下真正的学问和真理。同时，人也要有择善固执的态度，只有坚强的意志，才能抵抗物欲的诱惑与侵犯。
75-1. A person must possess a mind as open as a valley, for it's only through humility that genuine knowledge and truth can find room to reside. Simultaneously, one should adopt a resolute stance in choosing the path of virtue, as it's only with strong determination that we can resist the temptations and intrusions of material desires. Translated by Bayandefu.
75-2. Your mind must not be anything but empty. When it is empty, justice comes to dwell. Your mind must not be anything but authentic. When it is authentic, worldly anxieties cannot enter. Translated by Robert Aitken Daniel W. Wyckoff. 75-3. Man must keep his mind wide open, so that righteousness can take up its dwelling there. At the same time, one must keep one's mind substantially filled, so that it can block the inroads of endless desires for material comforts. Translated by Paul White.
75-4. A person must have a broad and humble mind to accommodate true knowledge and truth. At the same time, one should have a firm commitment to choosing goodness, as only a strong will can resist the temptations and infringements of material desires. Translated by Wen Lin.
76. 厚德载物，雅量容人。
76. Carry virtues and accommodate all. Have a gracious demeanor and embrace others.
菜根谭原文：地之惠者多生物，水之清者常无鱼。故君子当存含垢纳污之量，不可持好洁独行之操。
白话文注解：肮脏污秽的土地，可以看到许多生物繁衍其中，清澈见底的水中，往往看不到鱼虾。所以，一个有高深修养的君子，应具有接纳庸俗的气度和宽恕他人的雅量，绝不可自命清高，孤芳自赏者将落得孤家寡人的下场。
76-1. In the dirty and filthy soil, you can often witness numerous creatures thriving. Yet, in the crystal clear depths of water, fish and shrimp are often invisible. Therefore, a person of profound refinement should possess the capacity to accept the commonplace and the magnanimity to forgive others. They must never presume an air of superiority, for those who self-indulge in arrogance and self-admiration are destined to end up isolated and estranged. Translated by Bayandefu.
76-2. Soil that is dirty grows the countless things. Water that is clear has no fish. Thus, as a mature person, you properly include and retain a measure of grime. You can't just go along enjoying your own private purity and restraint. Translated by Robert Aitken Daniel W. Wyckoff. 76-3. Many life forms spring up in dirty places. Fish are rarely found in pristine water. Therefore, a virtuous man must be broad-minded and tolerant. He should not stand aloof while admiring his own purity. Translated by Paul White.
76-4. Dirty and filthy land can witness the proliferation of many creatures, while in clear and transparent water, fish and shrimp are often hard to spot. Therefore, a noble person with profound cultivation should possess the magnanimity to accept the common and the forgiveness to pardon others. One should never consider oneself lofty and self-contained, as those who self-praise excessively may end up isolated and lonely. Translated by Wen Lin.
77. 忧劳兴国，抑郁亡身。
77. Concern and effort bring prosperity to the country, while leisure and indulgence lead to one's demise.
菜根谭原文：犯驾之马可就驰驱，越野之金终归行犯。只亦悠游不振，便终身无个进步。白沙云：为人多病未足休，一生无病是无忧。真确论也。
白话文注解：在剽悍的马，只要训练有术，驾驭得法，仍可骑它奔驰万里，在融化时爆出炉的金属，再不甘，最后还是被人注入模型变为器具。人一旦贪图吃喝玩乐，就会使精神陷于萎靡不振的状态， 如此一辈子也不会有出息。陈宪章先生白沙曾说，做人有过失没有什么可耻，以为自己一生无过不知悔悟的人才最值得忧心。这的确是一句至理名言啊。
77-1. A spirited horse capable of unsettling the carriage can still be harnessed and ridden at full speed. Molten metal ejected from its mold can be recast. Yet, allowing yourself to succumb to lethargy can cast a permanent shadow over your prospects in life. The recluse Bai Sha once wisely noted, having moments of vulnerability is not a matter of shame. It's the one who believes they've lived without faults and without seeking redemption who ought to concern us deeply. A maxim of profound wisdom indeed. Translated by Bayan Defu.
77-2. A lively horse that upsets the cart can be controlled and ridden at a gallop. Even metal spurting from the matrix can be returned to the mold. However, with one slip into lethargy your life will not recover. The hermit Bai Sha said, having frail health is hardly an embarrassment. If I were to go through my entire life without an illness I would feel profoundly worried. A truth that is soundly reasonable. Translated by Robert Aitken Daniel W. Wyckoff. 77-3. An unruly horse can still be ridden taming. Melted metal from the smelting furnace are returned to the mold. A man devoted to idleness and devoid of enthusiasm will make no progress as long as he lives. The hermit Bai Sha said, making mistakes is no cause for shame. What worries me most would be a lifetime without mistakes. How true those words are. Translated by Paul White.
77-4. No matter how spirited a horse is, with skillful training and proper handling, one can still ride it for thousands of miles. Similarly, metal melted in a furnace, though reluctant, ultimately becomes a tool when poured into a mold. When individuals indulge excessively in the pleasures of eating, drinking, and revelry, it can lead their spirits to a state of languor and inertia, preventing any progress throughout their lives. The recluse Bai Sha once said, "It is not shameful to have faults as a human. The most worrisome are those who think they have never erred and lack repentance." This is indeed a profound and wise saying. Translated by Wen Lin.
78. 一念私贪，万劫不复。
78. One selfish thought, and a myriad of culpas cannot be regained.
菜根谭原文：人指一念私贪，便削刚为柔，色质为昏，变恩为惨，染洁为污，坏了一生人品。故古人以不贪为宝，所以度月一世。
白话文注解：一个人只要心中出现一点贪婪或偏私的念头，那他原本刚直的性格就会变得懦弱，原本聪明的头脑就会被蒙蔽的昏庸低能，原本慈悲的心肠会变得残酷扭曲，原本纯洁的人格会变得污浊不堪，最终毁了他一生清誉。所以古人告诫说，做人要以不贪为修身之宝，如此才能超脱物欲之陷阱，而安然度过一生。
78-1. Once a person's heart entertains even a trace of greed or bias, their once upright character may weaken. Their initially brilliant intellect may be clouded with ignorance. Their originally compassionate heart could become cruel and twisted, and their once pure personality might be tainted and sullied. Ultimately, this could ruin their lifelong reputation. This is why the ancients advised that the treasure in self-cultivation is to be free from greed. Only through this can one transcend the traps of material desire and peacefully navigate through life. Translated by Bayan Defu.
78-2. With a single thought of selfish acquisition the heroically strong collapse and become spongy, the intelligent clog up and become muddled, the beneficent switch and become merciless. An entire life of human dignity, imbued with unpolluted integrity, is spoiled. For the ancients, freedom from the taint of corruption was held as a treasure, and thus they could transcend the ordinary world. Translated by Robert Aitken Daniel W. Wyckoff. 78-3. Once greed and selfishness dominate a man's mind, his previously steel-like nature will become soft and weak. His intelligence will become blocked and dulled. His benevolent nature will become vicious. His pure spirit will become muddied. And the virtue he has accumulated over a lifetime will become dissipated. That is why the ancients regarded "be not covetous" as a precious precept for self-improvement. It was thus that they managed to overcome greed for material things, and enjoyed peace and security throughout their lives. Translated by Paul White.
78-4. If a person harbors even a slight hint of greed or partiality in their heart, their originally upright character may become weak. Their once intelligent mind can be clouded with foolishness. Their compassionate heart may turn cruel and distorted, and their pure personality may become tainted and sullied, ultimately ruining their lifelong reputation. Therefore, ancient wisdom advises that one should treasure the virtue of non-greed as a means of self-cultivation. Only by doing so can they transcend the traps of material desires and lead a peaceful life. Translated by Wen Lin.
79. 心公不昧，六贼无踪。
79. With a fair and unbiased heart, the 6 thieves leave no trace.
菜根谭原文。耳目见闻为外贼，情欲意识为内贼。只是主人翁心心不昧，独坐堂中，贼便化为佳人矣。
白话文注解：每个人眼睛所看、耳朵所闻的声色都是外来的敌人。每个人都有容易冲动的感情，无法满足的欲望，这些心理上的邪念都是内在的敌人。不管外贼还是内寇，只要身为主人翁的你自己保持灵魂的清醒，每天都循规蹈矩，不违背情理法则，那么所有的这些贼寇都会成为你修养品德的助手。
79-1. Everything a person sees and hears through their eyes and ears can be seen as external foes. Everyone has emotions that can easily be stirred, desires that are insatiable, and these psychological impurities can be seen as internal adversaries. Regardless of whether the threat comes from external foes or internal turmoil, as long as you, as the master of your own being, maintain the clarity of your soul, adhering to principles and never straying from the path of reason and ethics, then all these potential threats will transform into assistance in cultivating your virtues and character. Translated by Bayan Defu.
79-2. What we hear and see can be thieves outside, what we feel and desire can be thieves inside. If the venerable head of the household does not realize this but sits determinately in the central hall, the thieves will have become his family members. Translated by Robert Aitken Daniel W. Wyckoff. 79-3. The ears can hear flattering sounds, the eyes can be dazzled by silver and gold. These effects are enemies encroaching from without, whereas carnal desires are robbers hidden within. You must maintain vigilance at all times against these enemies. Seat yourself in the central hall and equip yourself with a sober mind, and you will surely be able to turn your enemies into helpmates. Translated by Paul White.
79-4. Every sight and sound perceived by one's eyes and ears is an external enemy. Every person harbors emotions that are easily stirred and desires that are insatiable, and these psychological impurities are internal enemies. Whether it's an external thief or an internal adversary, as long as you, the master of yourself, maintain clarity in your soul, and adhere to moral principles every day without violating reason and natural laws, then all these adversaries will become assistants in cultivating your character. Translated by Wen Lin.
80. 勉励现前之业，图谋未来之功。
80. Strive for present achievements. Plan for future accomplishments.
菜根谭原文。图未就之功，不如保已成之业；毁既往之失，不如防将来之非。
白话文注解：与其图谋没有把握完成的功业，不如守护已经成就的事业；与其一直懊悔从前的过失，不如防范未来可能发生的错误。
80-1. Rather than striving for uncertain achievements, it's wiser to safeguard the accomplishments already attained. Instead of dwelling on past mistakes, it's better to be vigilant against potential errors in the future. Translated by Bayan Defu.
80-2, planning for a merit not yet deserved is not as good as preserving an enterprise already achieved. Rather than repenting long past errors, it is better to guard against making future mistakes. Translated by Robert Aitken Daniel W. Wyckoff. 80-3, it is better to safeguard what you have already accomplished than to crave for exploits of the future. It is better to guard against further mistakes than to waste time regretting past ones. Translated by Paul White.
80-4. Rather than plotting ventures with uncertain outcomes, it's better to safeguard accomplishments that have already been achieved. Instead of constantly regretting past mistakes, it's more effective to guard against potential errors in the future. Translated by Wen Lin.